Hey guys, Mary here. Welcome back to the channel with episode 20 of March Comes In Like a Lion. So, as we continue on with the Shimada arc, I guess you could call it, we are going to finally see whether or not he gets a chance to play back at his hometown. And indeed, last episode I mentioned it could really go either way, depending on what kind of philosophies, what kind of life lessons that the anime wants to push onto us viewers, and in the context of this case to Rei as well. Now, while I was thinking about which way it could go in the last episode, I realized I forgot to expand on something, and that is the concept of basically winning for others, right? Because, I could get that. It's romantic in a certain sense. You're carrying the dreams, the hopes of all those back at your hometown shogi association, your hometown village, and all the old guys who support you along the way. That's quite admirable, and that's romantic in of itself, right? Then again, there is something to be said about wanting this just for yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, this is actually his job. He's a grown man now. Whether or not he wants this, it should come from himself. It should come from what he wants to do because it's him and not because of others expecting this of him. So, again, this doesn't really answer the question of whether or not I think he'll win or not, but just something else to think about as we go through the situation. So, anyways, let's get into the episode and see whether or not he actually gets this chance. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Flashback? Yeah, flashback. What? Hmm. Hmm. Is this morning? Yeah, or is this... No, this is evening, yeah. Farming in his dreams? Alright. Hmm. Married to someone else now? Oh, okay. Lived out his remaining life here as a farmer? Hmm. Is this what he actually wants deep down in his heart? Hmm. If he's dreaming about this... Hmm... Match starts at 9. Which one is a nightmare? Okay. I guess if he wins, then giving up on this would seem like a nightmare. 'Are you looking at this objectively or subjectively? Hi, Nikaido. How rich is this guy? Seriously. Is that the Oh. Well, this is certainly quite topical with coronavirus going around right now. Smith is. Well, that's what you're there as a substitute for. I guess it's just some superstition. I'm sorry. Oh well. Alright, I talked about this yesterday. He's the substitute observer? Oh, okay. Huh. This is a titled player. What is... Yeah, I was like... Normally they ask much higher ranked people to do this, right? It's gonna get even more nervous. Oh, this is also another student. I mean, it's quite true. That's what Ray is lacking. But, I mean, I saw that correctly, right? He's actually a titled player. Alright, get on with the game. Come on. That's interesting. So now we can actually have Ray's real-time thoughts as it's being played out, right? うん。
そうや名人の反撃が始まった。
勝負あったな。控室に行く。
Okay.
ああ、雪だ。どんなにもがいても容赦なく埋め尽くしてくる。目もくらむよ。
Checkmate.
闇。静かで圧倒的な。心奪われるほど美しい。
I actually thought they were gonna draw this out quite a lot.
まだ終わってません。
はあ、櫓は剥がされ、玉も不安定。しかも相手はそうや。ここからひっくり返るわけがなかろう。
でもまだ終わってません。島田さんの駒は生きてます。
終わりだよ、島田はもう。しかも圧倒的な大差でな。4立てだ。力が足りなすぎだ。お前確か島田の研究会に入ってるよな。先輩のピンチを認めたくないのはわかるが、かえって島田の株を落とすぞ。黙ってろ。いや、島田八段も頑張ったよ。
でもな、相手がな。
仕方ないよ。相手が悪いよ。そうやだもな。
4立てか。
それにしても一生くらいな。
意地見せてほしかったよな。
いいとこなしでしたね。
やっぱりな。
山形遠いね。
ま、こんなもんでしょう。
いや、違う。まだこの盤面は死んだようには思えない。島田さんの駒が死んだとは僕には思えない。僕には
桐山五段。どこへ。桐山五段。
島田さん、島田さん、島田さん、島田さん。藤本桐生。
Hmm.
島田さん。
島田八段、投了だ。大差だよ、大差。言った通りだろうが。
気づかなかったね。
So there was.
この闇はループしているだけではない。
There was a way out of it.
おい、待てよ。この7九角。逆転してる。24K の詰めろも消してるし。
あれ、そうや名人の王詰んでたんじゃないか。
そのたった一手で世界はまるで違う姿を表す。
Yeah, but he already conceded.
父に一瞬垣間見えていたはずの閃光のような活路。
君は僕を信用しすぎだ。
I wonder if that was actually a realistic thing to overlook.
島田さんの4連敗で幕を閉じた。
Hmm.
そして島田さんと僕はその夜のうちに京都を立った。島田さん、お水と軽い食べ物を。その疲弊しきった横顔に僕は彼の歩いてきた道のりを思った。そうだ、分かっていたのだ、初めから。嵐の向こうにあるもの、それはたださらに激しいだけの嵐なのだ。倒れても倒れても飛び散った自分のかけらをかき集め、何度でも立ち上がり進むものの世界。終わりのない方向。ならばなぜ。その答えは決してこの横顔に問うてはならない。
Okay, so that was the question
答えは
that he wanted to ask.
自らに問うしかないのだ。
Therein lies the answer to the question, is Shima gonna be able to do it? The answer is no. See you guys in a second. Okay, so we got our answer rather quickly. Shimada, in the end, still lost 4 straight losses, right? It's realistic, it's cruel, it's just the way life goes. I will say, however, I do think that the ending there was maybe a tad bit overdramatic with this, oh, I have this one move that's gonna change the entire course of the game. But apparently this was actually a real game played in the 2000s in the Professional Shogi Association. It's based on a real game, although I believe in that game as well, the losing player did not see the move that could turn the tide of the battle. Now, with that being said, however, because I was actually really curious about that, because I looked at the position many times, and even though I'm not a shogi player, right? I just, even after considering all the moves, I failed to see why that would be a reverse checkmate. So I actually went back and to read the manga to see the author's note on it and what he has to say about this position. And after reading all that and still playing it out, I still don't think that it's actually a checkmate, or at least not a checkmate within the 6 or 8 moves as the author claims here. I don't know. I just feel like there's actually a few more different things that Soya would have been able to put up a fight with, even if he did eventually put that bishop there. But, I mean, with all that being said, that's kind of a moot point, right? Because that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, in the end, Shimada conceded first, and that is that, right? So that's all she wrote. I think we don't need to really harp on the actual positions that much. Now, Shimada being defeated here, right? Honestly, from the beginning of this episode, I had this very big sneaking suspicion that that was going to be the case. Even last episode, I was kind of like 50-50. It could go either way, depending on what story the story wants to tell. But with the beginning, we can clearly see him dreaming about the alternative, right? And even though at the end there he said he wants to know with the end of this, with the outcome of this battle, which one is the nightmare, either him being a professional shogi player and then losing 4 straight, or a life where he never became pro and instead just stayed in his hometown. He asked the question, which is a nightmare, right? However, I feel like with the way that he's portraying these two, it seems rather clear that one of them is definitely not a nightmare, right? So I don't even saying that that's a nightmare might not exactly be the correct way to look at it. It's whether or not he can actually dream big, right? Or how can I put it? It was by that point where I felt that, okay, Shimada, his heart is clearly not in this. He's not, completely. He's already having many regrets and doubts and second guessing himself and making this decision. So most probably he's not gonna make it. Right? I feel like that, if anything, is the real, I guess, the real thing to take away from this entire arc, I guess you could say. And so I mentioned last episode what effect this will actually have on Rei here, and we can see at the end of this episode that was actually something that he wanted to ask himself as well, right? Why do all these other people continue to walk this path of being a professional shogi player, even though it is very turbulent, right? And so, in the end, he said he's got to find the answer for himself, and I think that's just the big takeaway from this episode so far. I will say that I was actually expecting him to maybe gain even a little bit more from this, and indeed, when they actually showed him being one of the commentators here, I was actually expecting the rest of the episode for him to go over Shimada's moves and then make some juxtaposition between his feelings, his thoughts, and the moves that he's playing, something like that. But in the end, nothing really happened there. In fact, I feel like that entire scene was just to achieve two purposes, right? One is to show how the world does not believe in Shimada, but Rei does, and Rei does have the genius, such as Soya, to also see this potentially game-changing move. And then also to introduce this Fujimoto character, who honestly, even though he's a bit blunt with his words, I would full-heartedly agree, right? There's so much emphasis being put on Rei being another one of these mid-school professionals, and yet, what has he achieved yet, right? Has he actually shown the desire and drive to go forward? There are lots of geniuses in the world, however, okay, actually, scratch that. I shouldn't say there are lots of geniuses in the world. There are lots of smart people in the world. Now, how many of them have actually gone on to do something great? That remains to be seen, right? It's not a case where, that's the only way to live your life, but in this instance where, to them, the biggest goal is, of being a professional shogi player, is to become one of the masters. It's quite clear, right? Rei is not taking it seriously so far into this series. So, I have a sneaking suspicion we'll see more of Fujimoto in the future as well. But as for a time being, well, I don't know. Back to normal life, I guess, and back to seeing if Rei is going to be able to change his game up and potentially start making some improvements and strides with his own career. So there we go. That was it for this episode. Again, not really that much to talk about. This whole segue, this whole arc felt a little bit weird to me. Like, I don't quite get what we're supposed to take away from this, beyond, I guess, knowing that Rei needs a goal for him to continue doing this, right? Which we already knew a long time ago. I guess it's really just to introduce Shimada's character, it's his story arc, so on and so forth. I'm not really quite sure how much of an impact this will have on Rei. I guess we'll know as time goes on. So anyways, that's my review of episode 20. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.